what's poppin', bro?
I know, what's up, my brother?
Man, I'm good, man. I can't complain. You know, working on new things,
Right on.
discovering new things,
Right
and all
on.
of that. And I said, yo, I gotta sit and talk with Drum. We've known each other for a long time now.
Yeah.
And we've had the conversation about how we met, but we never, you know.
We've never done it publicly.
Yeah, we never done it publicly.
Yeah.
So let me tell you how I got cool with DJ Drama. Years ago, when Twitter was Twitter, right? When people were just going up there,
Good old
right?
days.
The good old days, right? Like I was just up there ranting and talking about stuff, and Drama was having a public spat with an artist, and I said some fly shit, man.
I remember what you said.
What I said?
You said, I made a comment about that artist. I tried to denounce this person at the time. We was going through some personal issues.
Right.
I tried to denounce his situation and my situation, and you was on Twitter like, nah, we not having that, B.
Yeah, I was tight because I'm like, bro, you forced this nigga on mad versus. You know what I mean? We ain't just go through that way. And then Drop, let me tell you what Drop said to me though. Drop said something about
some dumb shit.
Nah, it was cool though. It was cool. You was like, man, something about having money or something. I said, you supposed to have more money than me. You DJ Drama.
Really? That when a nigga has to go to money, I really didn't have nothing to say. That's like when a nigga beats me on the game in Madden or something. Like, I just be like, nigga, I'm rich. Like, because I ain't really had no real response. So that was my only response at the time.
That happened with me one time on a game, and a nigga sent me his address and told me to look up his crib. He's like, yo, look up my crib. He's like, my crib is like 5 acres. I was like, I don't care, you trash. Like, I got my shit about an acre. Like, you know what I mean?
Shit, yeah.
Facts. But
I did, and then, I don't know if you remember, but you made that comment, and then I followed you, like, off that. Like, that's how I started
then we DM'd each other. And we spoke, and what was crazy about it was, of course, you a Philly guy.
For sure.
And I have, like, Philly's my second home. And we have a million people before we even met that's mutual.
Yeah.
And then it was like, once we started speaking, I was like, yo, Drum, I can help you with anything? Like, I was like, yo, can I work with you?
Because I was already, like, you know, you was one of them niggas on Twitter that, like, your hip-hop hot takes were, like, they meant something, you know what I'm saying? So you was one of those guys. So wait, did you and Lake already know each other?
Yeah.
Y'all knew each other from Rockefeller.
Yeah, I knew Lake through Chris.
Okay.
So, you know, remember, me and young Chris was super duper close, and Chris used to come down here to work and all of that. So, like, when we were doing mixtapes, and I remember when Chris did a song with Mace, and this is before Mace started, like, remember he came back and he started getting back on his murder shit.
Yep.
And then I think it wasn't my first time talking to Lake, but I remember like he had to send me the song.
Okay.
He was doing a Mick Boogie tape or something like that.
Got you.
And then me and Lake just got cool, and then all of us just got super close, and then y'all became like, I always tell people when I describe like my generation now, fam, I'm like, yo, in music, you don't get a lot of people that you could call like friends and family, but y'all really like my friends and family, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just grateful for that relationship. But man, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing great, man. I'm blessed, man. You know, living life, enjoying my like elder statesman space in the game.
You do have an elder statesman space in the game, but I feel like now, even though you've kind of decreased your presence on projects, you know, your name is super important, more important now than it's kind of ever been.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I mean, yeah, you know, I guess that's an ode to, you know, years of hard work and creating legacy and, you know, the brand in itself. So I think like I'd probably say since the Tyler album, there was definitely a resurgence of like the mixtapes and Gangsta Grillz and like, you know, me hosting projects and like, you know, even after we did Call Me If You Get Lost and won a Grammy, like I went on a hell of a run with just like in the tape game. And, you know, so we started the label. You brought up Generation Now, like me, Ken, and the Lake. We're going on 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we started the label kind of almost in a sense, I didn't even really.
So hold on, Drum.
Okay. I want to go kind of fast. My bad.
Yeah,
take your time.
I want to go there. But before we get there, because you are from Philly, but you're a fixture in hip hop, but specifically Atlanta.
Right.
Like, Drama's roots come from Philly. I think that what people don't realize about you that may not know you is like you super duper Philly to the core no matter what. Mm-hmm. But the optics has always been, oh, he's from Atlanta, or he runs Atlanta at one point in time, or he does all this stuff in Atlanta. But I wanted to talk about like just growing up in Philly. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up in Philly, what it was like before you even knew you wanted to be DJ Drama.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, I had the normal like 80s youth, you know what I'm saying? We came up like I feel like, what are we? I'm probably like second generation hip hop in a sense. Like, you know, Run DMC was one of the first people that made me want to get Adidas. And, you know, I remember when fucking, you know, the box and, you know, Yo MTV Raps and shit was coming on. And, you know, I used to run home from school to go watch videos. You know, people don't like realize it's so crazy. You know, we think about how much access we have to the culture, to content. Like, you know, when we was growing up, you only had like certain times. Like, you know, I would have Friday nights, Power 99 Radioactive. I would have after school, you know, Yo MTV Raps or Rap City. So there were all, you know, then you would have The Source that would come out once a month. This, you know, we didn't even have the internet in the early 90s for me, like my golden era. So, you know, the way I got hip hop was, you know, few and far between for a certain time. Honestly, I was really like, I wasn't a real big sports kid. I used to like skateboard downtown.
What?
Yeah, like this spot called Love Park in Philly.
I know about Love Park. Yeah.
Yeah, so Love Park. So in the mid 90s, it was like, there was just this surge of like young black skateboarders, like from the city, like not from the suburbs. And I got cool with a bunch of kids. One of them happened to be Stevie Williams, who went on and started Dirty Ghetto Kids. Yeah, I know Stevie since we was like 12, 13.
That's so real quick, because I want you to keep your thought on that. But like, even with something in that vein, black skateboarders is almost like this oxymoron thing. Like, people don't think they exist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And to be doing that skateboard takes you all around the city. So when you were skateboarding, how much access did that give you? Because that was your social media, basically. You know what I mean? Being on that board and moving over here and
Absolutely.
going there.
That's how I was learning the city in a lot of ways. And we would go from one part of, I mean, a lot of it at that time with that clique, we stayed a lot in Center City, but that's definitely how I learned center. Like, that's how I learned the city. You know what I'm saying? Getting around on that board and what happened. And I feel like around that time, skateboarding and hip hop was kind of like, there was this like merge, you know what I'm saying? In a sense, like I remember like, I remember like the clothes and the stores, like there just was this like crossover that was kind of happening. Long story short, I wasn't really that good, to be honest. Like,
skateboarding?
Nah, out of the whole crew, I was probably the worst one. So around that time was when Juice came out. And, you know, I think for me, that was the first time that I had really seen like DJing on a big screen like that, you know what I'm saying? And that shit it changed my life. I was like, man, that's what I want to do. And, you know, I convinced my mom to buy me a turntable and a mixer. And, you know, like Philly had definitely had like this bubbling, like Philly local scene, you know what I'm saying? Outside of, you know, what was going on nationally. So, you know, literally, I remember when the Roots was the Square Roots, we had this group called 100X. And then my dad lived in West Philly, and he lived, my next door neighbor was this artist named Bahamadia. And
Bahamadia was your next, because I wanted to know how the hell you get Bahamadia.
She was my next door neighbor.
Wow.
She literally lived next door to my dad. And, you know, it's crazy because I literally was a fan before I even knew that. Like, it's so wild, because at the time I was living with my mom in Germantown. Mm-hmm. And she had this record that came out called Funk Vibe, and it was fire. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you know, Bahamadia is like classic hip hop shit, but, you know, she had a very distinct voice and everything. And then I found out that was Tony from next door. And she like, that was probably the first person, well, no, I'd say her and Questlove were two of the first people to ever like, kind of like befriend me in a sense, you know what I'm saying? That were, in my opinion, like already in the game. You know, so Baham was one of the first people outside of family members. She took me to New York. I remember she took me to, I think she took me to like J. Rue the Damage's album release party, and Premier was DJing. And, you know, I'm a kid. I'm probably like 13, 14, 15, maybe 15, 16. And, you know, I'm seeing Premier DJ, and the first time I heard Soundboy Burial and like, you know, that era. So, you know, and then Questlove I used to run into him on South Street all the time. So every time something would happen with the Roots, he would kind of literally almost like personally update me So I remember when they first got their record deal. I remember when they had their show at the Trocadero, like when they opened up for the Fugees. Like I remember, I went to their Distortion the Static videos. So watching the Roots for me was the reason why I had the feeling of like this could really happen. Like, this hip hop shit could be real. It's not just some shit I see on TV Raps or.
That's super, super dope and interesting because like I tell people a lot of times, because Juice was my thing too. Like my mom took me to see Juice. I think it was because she didn't have nobody to watch me at the time. You know what I mean?
And she wanted to see it?
Yeah, she wanted to see it, but I went to see Juice with her. But the thing I had with my mom was like she would explain to me what the movie was about.
Okay.
But when I seen Q, bro, like when I seen Q, he just seemed like the coolest person ever. I was like, I want to be a DJ, but I never really leaned into it, right? But what you saying, the Roots and seeing them in close proximity, it takes me back to me being a kid. I was talking to my wife about this with seeing Mace. You know what I mean? Because like I grew up in the Bronx, but when I moved to Harlem, I was still a kid, and Mace was a superstar, and he still was moving around, and I was like, you could actually be from here and do something with yourself. So just hearing that is crazy. But what's these years? Are these like your high school years?
Yeah, these are all high school years. Because I was into skateboarding when I was like in middle school, and then Juice came out in between my eighth grade and ninth grade. So going into ninth grade in the high school was when I literally first started DJing. Probably made my first like mixtape sophomore year or something like that. So yeah, these are all my high school years. So by my senior year, like I graduated in 96. So like I went to high school from like 92 to 96. Like by my senior year in high school, like I was already kind of like locally popping. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a little name for myself. Bahamadia put me on the back of her album cover. I was in her video. So
we weren't DJ Drama at that time, were you?
I was DJ Drama. Okay. Yeah. I picked that name when I was like 15.
How'd you pick the name?
So I had these homeboys. I used to work with this like this program. My family, my parents are very like socially conscious and into a lot of community activities and things like that. So I worked for this program, and these older cats were involved in it, worked there too. And one of them was named Hakeem, and one of them was named Bakari. And Hakeem was like the biggest Pac fan in the 90s. Like, and coming from the East Coast, like, that wasn't your normal thing, but I just always remember how much he loved Pac. And my other man, Bakari, he was actually from Senegal, and his real name was Bakari Dramé. And he used to, you remember remember the vendors, y'all had them in Harlem?
Yeah, selling the tapes.
He used to sell like tapes, oils, incense, like all that stuff. And Hakeem used to always call Bakari DJ Drama because of his last name. And I remember thinking like, damn, that shit's fire. Like, that name is hard. But he wasn't a real DJ, like, you know what I'm saying? So I asked him, I was like, yo, are you going to use that? And he was like, nah, you can have it. So I was like, all right, I'm be DJ Drama.
But at this time, 96, I was graduating from middle school. That's the 72 and 10 Bulls. It's so much history that year.
Big year.
But
legendary year.
Very, very
AI,
legendary.
Kobe came to the league.
Yeah, no facts. I was just earlier listening to, who was I listening to? I was listening to Total, I think Kissing You, and I always do this thing with my daughter. I'd be like, guess what grade I was in when this came out? And she was like, you was in middle school? And she's like, 8th, and I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? But with that being said, what was your mindset? Because now you about to go into college. You know what I'm saying? Like now you about to go to college. What's your mindset potentially leaving Philly? Did you know that you wanted to leave Philly?
Yeah, my dream. So I was kind of like, my other passion, because of my sister who really got me into it, was like filmmaking. So, when I was younger, my dream was always to move to New York, to go to NYU, go to film school, get me a fucking brownstone in Brooklyn, live the fucking Spike Lee life. Like, that's what I thought the dream was. Like, going to New York to me was everything. Like, I used to just take trips with friends and shit like that and just be in the city and just be overwhelmed of how lit New York was. So, I definitely wanted to leave Philly to go to college. And around 95, 96, I came to Atlanta to visit. My a friend of mine, like a good friend that I know forever, he was going to Clark Atlanta, and I came to the campus and I checked it out. And I kind of like, I had took a trip with my dad to Atlanta and just kind of felt the vibes, you know what I'm saying? And just seeing the difference of like how the city operated, how black it was. And, you know, it just moved differently from what I was used to. And, you know, so, you know, I kind of had the mind, like when I was in school, I was voted most likely to be famous. Like I had the mind state, like I'm gonna make it. It's just figuring out like where's it gonna be. And I wound up getting a scholarship to Clark Atlanta. So that was a big reason for, you know, why I chose Atlanta. And then I just remember my dad telling me like in them years about, you know, him wishing he went to a HBCU just based upon like the friends you make in college and, you know, the people that you meet and, you know, how important those relationships are, which is crazy to think about, you know, where we are today. But, so yeah, and I just felt like, you know, Atlanta was a place like where I could kind of come and do my thing, you know, and at the time, Atlanta was obviously, it was becoming Atlanta. Like, you know, this is LaFace, So Def Days, you know, Freaknik, shit like that. But I had no idea of how impactful or prominent like the city was going to be on hip hop when I moved in '96. Yeah. I mean, you know, outside of those who I just mentioned who were, you know, very big, like R&B wise, there was some rap there, you know. I mean, Outkast was the biggest thing smoking out the city. Yeah. Know? And it was just them.
It was Outkast, and then I mean,
Goody Mob,
yeah. Right? And I mean, the source was that 95?
95.
95 when the whole Atlanta got something to say. But them like planting a flag in the ground to basically put in the groundwork, right? To be a fixture. You had no idea that it was gonna be as big as it had gotten today. Like
definitely not. No idea.
But when you get to college, right? So you get to college. So this is me and Cannon, you know, we chopped it up and he was saying about how, you know, when he met you. And he said, man, when he met you, you was already DJ Drama, right? And he said when he met you, you was like young boy, fuck out of here. Like, you know what I mean? Or some shit. But talk to me a little bit about like you meeting Cannon and Sense and, you know, y'all just getting together and building.
Yeah, so we get to college. I get there literally right after the Olympics had left. I mean, damn near August of '96. And Sense, somebody tells me, or somebody tells Sense, I think Sense, we stayed in this dorm called Brawley Hall, and Sense was on the 3rd floor, I was on the 2nd floor. My room was 215, matter of fact.
That's crazy.
And somebody told Sense like, yo, it's another DJ on the 2nd floor from Philly. So he came to my room and Sense told me he had actually heard of me in Philly before he got to Atlanta. So we like, you know, we fucking around, like had a little session or whatever. And then, you know, we just started hanging from there. Like, you know, we had a lot in common and we would literally do all the college parties, like, you know, anything on campus or fraternity or sorority wise, we was getting our hands and feet, you know, wet. And then Cannon is a year younger than us. So my sophomore year was his freshman year, and he accurately did walk up on me on campus and told me he was from Philly. Now, the backstory to that is I had this other homeboy who they went to high school together who kind of had forewarned me that Cannon was a nut, which is crazy to think about now. So
yeah, that's crazy.
I already had like a little chip on my shoulder. Because I remember telling him, like, yo, this tall ass nigga from Philly walked up on me. He's like, oh yeah, I went to high school with him. He's a nut.
Yeah.
So, but Cannon was very, after that first interaction, you know, he still, I think, I don't remember at what point it happened, but he wound up giving me a beat CD.
Yeah, he did tell me.
Yeah, he gave me a beat CD and I took it home. I listened to it and that shit was fucking fire. Like, sounded like Baby Primo.
Damn.
And I remember hitting him like, yo, this shit is hot. Like, you know, come fuck with us. And after that, me, him, and Sense, like, literally just became inseparable. Like, you know, we would just, you know, we would do everything together. We would share parties or like, if one of us couldn't do something, the other one could. Like, you know, if somebody needed a record, like just whatever. Like, you know, we we was really brothers like that. And that was one thing I felt in Atlanta that I could definitely say not so much in Philly, for instance, like, you know, just the type of like support and hands and like, and mentorship, just shit like that, like really, really existed in Atlanta, and I had never felt that before.
Because in Philly, you know, y'all run with that, you dicky, like, you know what I mean?
100%,
It's
yeah.
that mindset. I think we got the same, like, mentality in New York. I always say, like, we get dressed and go out there and not have a good time.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
niggas don't even speak when you walk down the street and
we don't
up
speak
top.
because, but
if you look a man in his eye or you look away, like,
yeah,
you know, walking down the street and actually saying, hey, what's up to somebody was foreign to me until I got here.
And I experienced that too, like when I not moving down here, but the first time I came down here. So I started coming down here around like 99, 2000, because my cousins moved down here. And I had asked Cannon, because he told me how y'all was doing like clubs and all that. I said, SOs, right? And he was like, hell yeah, we DJ'd there before. Because that was the first time, like me coming down here and going to Club SOs with my cousin was the first time I've been somewhere where I seen people, everybody in the room sing a song together in unison. I never seen that before. But it was just like, it's one thing about camaraderie and another thing about being out your comfort zone. Because I feel like coming down here or going somewhere else, when you in a foreign land, you want to be somewhere where it's people that's mutual where you from.
100%.
You know what I mean? Because you don't know what people's intentions or how they gonna act, and I'm pretty sure that even though you had a name for yourself, from some, not everybody, but some guys, there's probably some tension there because they see you and everybody on you and everybody flocking to you, and they probably trying to do the same things you do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we had competition. Like there was a lot of DJs around at that time. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, we obviously bonded, most likely being where we were from, and clicked like that. And the other thing I was gonna say to your point was that, like, I think that's what like makes a lot of what Atlanta is. Like, I mean, Atlanta has become, you know, definitely the mecca of hip hop, but you know, it's been the mecca of like Black culture for a long time. But I think a lot of that, you know, you have to give credit to like the HBCUs and people coming from out of town, and you know, even coming down here made me a better DJ because, you know, I used to play fucking Dr. Octagon and Smith & Wesson at parties when I was home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like coming down here, like you got to learn how to please niggas from Texas, please niggas from Louisiana, please your West Coast fan base. Like, so when we would do college parties, we would literally in 3 hours run through the gamut of, you know, music from all across the land, because you got all these people from college in one city, and they all very proud of their shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know, I think that is a key thing to the city and why people like flock down here or you know, prosper here.
But now you here, and now like things is moving, right? And I mean, is there anything in your mind or your mindset that wants to, I mean, you're in music, but are you trying to get into the game at that point?
Absolutely.
So take me through that, right? Like, you're in college, you know, now, or let's say we're coming out of college, right? And because Cannon told me about like the crib that y'all had where
532 Glen Iris.
Yeah, right. But now and now you're moving and shaking, so you're building a foundation of what eventually grows to be the affiliates, right?
Yeah.
But now, you know, you're doing mixtapes, so you're getting ready to start doing mixtape. What's the first mixtape that DJ Drama does?
It was I mean, again, I've been doing mixtapes since I was in Philly. So the first mixtape I ever made was called Illadelph. And I literally copied, that was when Doo-Wop had dropped 95 Live, Part 2, and the one that had all the freestyles on it. And so I gathered up like Black Thought, Malik B, rest in peace, Baham, and everybody kind of gave me a freestyle. When I was in Atlanta, I had been doing tapes that whole time I was in school. So literally in between classes, I would go to class, come out, and be on the strip hustling mixtapes. Or I used to work in this restaurant on campus called Marco's Pita, and I would sell mixtapes in there. And this was the time when, like, you know, I was trying to build my name up. So I would have like an East Coast tape, I would have a neo soul tape, I would have a reggae tape, and you know, eventually I had to make a South tape. You know, obviously I'm in the fucking South. So in I think like sophomore, junior year, I made a tape called Jim Crow Laws. That was the first. That was the first South tape I made. It was called Jim Crow Laws.
Who is it? What was Jim Crow Laws? Is a tape. I ain't gonna lie. That's
a crazy title.
Yeah, it's a crazy
for
title.
A mixtape.
But is there any like main person on the tape, or is it just like a compilation?
So at this time, everything was just compilation. Like we hadn't even moved into the era of mixtapes being
a solo thing.
Nah, that hadn't happened yet. Like that didn't come till early 2000s, like Dipset G-Unit era.
Yeah.
So everything I'm telling you is before that. So I did Jim Crow Laws, then I did a tape. I think me and Sense did a tape called How the South Was Won. And you know, when I was on campus, like obviously the South tapes were the smokers. Like they were the ones making me the most money. So then when I got out of school, the only quote unquote job I ever had, or I had, you know, I studied film in school again. I went to go work on Baby Boy. I moved to LA to go work on Baby Boy, and I was a PA on Baby Boy set. But I had my first overseas gig in London, like 3 weeks into shooting or something like that. It was, you know, crazy side story, but I remember watching Taraji's audition tape, like, yeah, like Tyrese's first real acting gig, like, you know, really watching this movie come to fruition. But when I left to go do this gig, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to go back because I feel like I'd be starting over. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm interning in Dr. Dre's studio. Like, I'm literally going to step one in the film world where I've already kind of, you know, I'm still not in the game yet, but I've already built this name up as DJ Drumore. I'm in a direction. And now I'm going to go into the film world and start over. Like, let me see where this takes me. So I came back home. I came back to Atlanta.
How was that tough?
No, not really, because, you know, I mean, who knows where that would have took me. But like I said, I had already started my own journey at the time.
Yeah.
And then, you know, now I was able, like, at every level, at every step since I've been here, like even in college, like, you know, I was able to make a living for myself, you know, pay my bills, have a couple extra dollars, even if in those early days it wasn't a lot. You know, I still was doing what I love to do and working for myself. So, you know, I enjoyed that, and it, you know, being my own boss, getting up, going to this school or that school and hustling tapes, coming home, doing gigs and what have you. And then so I made Gangsta Grillz. The first one I think I made in like 2001.
All right, wait a second.
I was just going into the South.
All right.
So yeah, so I was just going to say that again at this time, that was the first, like the first version of that was just a compilation of songs. Like Hot Boys was on there, fucking anything that was hot at the time was
everything that's going on. Yeah. The reason why I said hold on is because I'm like, I wanted to know where the Gangsta Grillz name even originated at.
Bro, you never believe it. Like me and Sense sitting on couches like this at 532.
Yeah.
And I just needed a new name because I was like, I can't call it Jim Crow Laws 2. I don't want to use How the South Was Won. What can I call it? What can I call it? Like, and we kind of were on a time frame because we had to get the tape ready for the birthday bash that was coming up. And I was just like, Gangsta. What about Gangsta Grillz? And Sense was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I was like, all right, bet.
You just said Gangsta Grillz?
I just said it, bro.
Bro, how the hell you just say Gangsta? Wait.
I had no idea.
You know what it is? I think that like for perception, for the fan in me, because like you my brother, but the fan in me is like, it had to be like him putting this potion together and it, like somebody dropped their grill on the floor and there was a gangster and it was some shit like that. But it was just simple as you just saying
when they put two words together.
Gangsta Grillz.
That's it.
Bro. All right, so you do the first, the Gangsta Grillz Volume 1.
Yeah, it's trash. So trash.
Gangsta Grillz Volume 1 comes out, it's
like,
trash.
I determined just like music was on there randomly, just because the song was hot at the time.
Yeah, but that's what everybody's like. When I think about like buying tapes, so of course we had, where I used to buy tapes from in New York, and when you said doo-wop, that brought me back, because I remember like, what got me into buying tapes was walking by the mixtape spot, and of course they blasting the music, and hearing a freestyle or hearing a song and saying, "Yo, what song is that?" And
they
like,
nigga hang your playlist.
Yeah, they give you the book, and you go through the book. Yeah. I remember like this Channel Live freestyle was a doo-wop tape.
I remember that.
Oh, they rapped over what was it over
I think that was 95 Live through.
yes, I want to sleep all day and hang out all night.
I remember that.
But they was rapping over a Biggie song. It was Big Papa.
Yep.
You remember that shit?
Yeah, I do.
So
I do
like
remember
that's
that.
what got me into like buying tapes. And then it was spots in the Bronx I used to go to. We had Ali at Schemes on 125th.
I remember that spot.
Harlow Music Hut, all these different spots.
Yeah, I went to
right?
all those
But
spots.
and everybody kind of mimicked. So then you get like the exclusives.
Yep.
Because then it was Clue coming with he only has this Locks freestyle.
Mm-hmm.
He only has this Nori song. He only has this Nas drop with this freestyle. Where's the space that you did a Jim Crow, how the South was one, first Gangsta Grillz is trash, right? But when you start to shift like, yo, I gotta get my own shit going. Like I gotta have my own exclusive.
I mean, it kind of just, to be honest, it really happened organically because even at the time when I made the first Gangsta Grillz, like I was still, the majority of the tapes that I was moving them directly. Like I wasn't in stores yet, you know what I'm saying? Or New York City nobody was buying a DJ drama tape. So I would literally be on campuses myself with product. So when people were buying tapes from me, they weren't buying them because of my name. They were buying them because of the playlist,
Right.
the songs were on there. And one of the things about it in those years was I couldn't compete with what Clue was doing or what no New York DJs was doing. Like, cause I can't beat a New York DJ to a New York City artist exclusive. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what it was at that time.
Yeah, that's what it was, especially in the mixtape game. Like, you know, it was still a very East Coast, centered culture, in my opinion. Like other markets like Atlanta and Houston and Miami, and I'm sure the West Coast as well, they had mixtape culture, but it was regional. You see what I'm saying? Like niggas from other places weren't checking for mixtapes that were coming out of certain areas outside of like everybody in the country wanted a Clue tape, like, you know what I'm saying? Or a handful of New York mixtape DJs. So then I did one Gangsta Grillz and I did volume 2. And then after volume 2, so I guess this takes us into the year, what are we in? Maybe like 02? Yeah, probably 02.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So around this time is when mixtape DJ started having hosts for tapes.
Right.
So once that formula got popular, I was like, all right, I need to get a host. I mean, a lot of what I was doing at the time was literally just like following what niggas in New York was doing for the most part.
Right.
So like when hosts got popular, I was like, all right, fuck it, I need a host. So I thought of a couple of people I could have the host to tape. Lil Jon happened to be one of them. I asked him, he obliged, and that was how the Gangsta Grillz drop was born. So that was Gangsta Grillz 4. That was the first one with the host. Again, still just a compilation of all the hottest songs. Like, you know, I think I went all the way up to 7 or 8. Matter of fact, I got to number 8 when it was just a straight compilation.
Right.
Again, around this time is when Fifth, a G Unit,
Yeah,
Dipset.
that's what God's Plan. And
yeah.
The first Diplomats tape comes out that year. Cause Come Home With Me, right?
Yeah.
Comes out that year. But yeah, I keep going.
So this is 02, 03.
Mm-hmm.
So then by now Gangsta Grillz is starting to mean something. So, and just to go back to your point a little bit, like when you said like people had their niches in a sense, without really realizing it, but what my niche was becoming was because at that time, like the hottest mixtapes in Atlanta were from Big Camp. So DJ Jelly, Monte, MC Assault, they had shit on Smash, but they had a certain style to their mixtapes. You know, I kind of came in and was like playing South music or, you know, artists from the South, but it was still kind of like with an East Coast formula. So I was talking on the tapes, I was playing exclusives, I was doing freestyles. This is when I first met Tip. You know, Tip was literally T.I. was the first artist that reached out to me to freestyle on a mixtape. Like
how does he, I mean, at this time, mixtapes are basically, if you don't have a record on radio, if you are not, 106 and Park is going on at this time.
Absolutely.
But you have to be a mainstream, your record has to be just very strong on radio for it to be on a 106 and Park. But if you in that interim, the only way you can really get known in the streets to build up some sort of foundation is mixtapes.
For sure.
So what is that called like when T.I. reaches out to you and says he wants to, because I'm Serious came out when, 2000?
2001.
01, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, mind you, when he reaches out to me is before he even ever does his first mixtape. So like his manager, business partner at the time, Jason Jeter, who happened to be from Jersey, as well. So he grew up on mixtape culture. He wound up getting one of my mixtapes in a barbershop, called the number on the back, told me about this new artist he had. And I was like, yeah, sure, bring him through. And Tip rapped for me at that crib that Cannon was telling you about in the 4-4. And then that first freestyle he ever did, I remember him saying like, I'm the king of the South. Mind you, this is my first time hearing of him, meeting him, everything. And I'm like, yo, this little nigga's crazy. Like, this nigga really just, I remember telling Sense when he left, like, yo, this nigga really said he's the king of the South. I was like, he's fucking bugging.
But at the time, nobody really proclaimed to be the
Nobody
king.
proclaimed that. But you got to just put it in perspective. Like, yeah, there was no quote unquote king of the South, but here's this brand new kid that I'm just meeting, quiet with bifocals on, fucking probably 180 pounds, if that, saying he's the king of the South. Like, you know, still it's the year 2000, 2001. So it's still a wild statement. I mean, I was doing shit like that too. I was saying I'm the king of this shit when I wasn't yet. Yeah. But you gotta
proclaim caught on to you yet.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? But then around this time, that's when mixtapes started to be like one artist generated, dominated, like, centered. And, I was blessed to be in a situation where, the first like artist that I did a tape with, or that the opportunity presented itself with Tip and Grand Hustle. And it was actually Jason Jeter's idea. He called me up. I did a tape. I did like Gangsta Grillz 8. So, by this time Gangsta Grillz was moving, and, again, like I just to make my whole point, like what I did as far as with Gangsta Grillz was kind of revolutionary at the time, because, niggas wasn't talking on South music or exclusives or freestyles. Like, there was just a different style of mixtape that people in the South were accustomed to. And I was introducing, what you or me listen to all the time, right, was South hip hop, and this shit was fire. So I was having Killer Mike, Phil Mob, like, whoever could spit, like I would get freestyles from them and put them on a tape. Long story short, we wound up doing T.I. and PSC In the Streets Meets Gangsta Grillz. And that was the first official like Gangsta Grillz when it was completely just one artist.
When it was one artist.
And that shit was like the hottest shit in the streets, and that was the only place you could get that music.
How much money you made off of that joint?
That one I probably didn't make a lot, because I hadn't really figured out a system. I wasn't. The bootleggers was making way more than I was.
But that was like I kind of look at like bootlegging as like what today's version of clipping is, right? Like,
yeah, that's good. That's funny.
These random pages just take the clips and just put them everywhere, taking your content. Because I remember one day, bro, one of my homegirls hit me one day, and she sends me some page. And she like, yo, 8 minutes of your content is crazy. And I was like, that ain't nothing. And then I went and looked at it later, and it was like 580,000 views. And I was like, damn, you know what I mean?
Damn.
But it was like,
you doing the numbers, like, yeah.
Right.
I feel you.
But at the same time, like, I can understand, them putting my content out, like, or repurposing it. It showed so many other people, put so many other people onto what I was doing that possibly didn't know.
For sure.
So now we got the Tip, Gangsta Grillz and all that. Jeezy.
Yeah.
Trapper Dot, bro, I know that, we've had 100 conversations about like just music in general, group chats, all types of shit. Trapper Dot, my nigga. Trapper Dot is like this thing that's just undeniable when it comes to fucking music, bro. Like, when you hear that doom, 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 and here I stand, a grown-ass man, bro, still to this day I get chills every time that shit comes, because I can remember how I felt. I was like 22 in that drop. I can remember exactly how I felt when I heard that. How did this come about, bro?
so crazy, like to be here 20 years later talking about this shit, being on tour with Jeezy and still watching how well that music has aged and how it resonates with people. So when we lived in the fourth ward, in this crib that me and Sent shared, Coach K lived around the corner, and we, Coach K was our neighbor. He had this rap group that he was working with before Jeezy, and he actually used to work for this basketball player Allen Henderson's record label called Hindu.
Yeah.
So Coach he would be around wiggling, and he would be at the parties I was doing and shit like that. So we were cool, we were friends, and he told me that he was about to start working with this new artist that was from Macon named Lil J, and they had this van. Oh, matter of fact, so yeah, his name originally was Lil J, and then at some point he changed his name to Young Jeezy, and he put out this album called Come Shop With Me. And I remember they had the rap van, and that's how I was familiar with who Jeezy was originally, because Coach was my neighbor. And at the time I was super T.I'd out, like, and Tip was scorching at the time, you know what I'm saying? And that was the first I don't think I had become his DJ yet, but I was vying for the position. And Gangsta Grillz was bubbling in the streets. Like, it definitely was the go-to mixtape for artists coming from Atlanta for sure. And Coach, I didn't realize this, but Coach wound up saying this just recently, but he used to get me to make show CDs for Jeezy. Jeezy used to do shows in Macon, and they would pay me to do these show CDs. Coach wound up just recently telling me that the only reason why he was making me do the show CDs or paying me to do them was to convince me to do the tape, like to do Jeezy's tape, So
he was basically sequencing his show.
Yeah, but it was only like 2-3 songs. It wasn't shit. Like, it was free money. And the first time I met Jeezy, he came to my crib in the fourth ward. Mind you, this is like the hood. And I asked him to take my shoes off, and he's looking at me like, nigga, I live in Buckhead. Like, what am I taking my shoes off for? And so, I wasn't really a believer at first, but again, it wasn't that I didn't believe, like, as if I was fronting on him. I had never experienced this before. You feel what I'm saying? Like, up until that point, the only artists that I had done projects with or been a part of had already been on. So I hadn't seen the vision of, like, necessarily breaking an artist. Like, I hadn't gotten to that point mentally yet where I realized what my capabilities or, where I was going to go with my career. So when Jeezy and Coach took me to lunch one day, and literally, Jeezy really, he had his vision. Like, he knew where he wanted to go. Like, he knew he was a believer, like, in what he wanted to accomplish. And I say that to say the first tape we did was Streets Is Watching, which came out before Trap or Die. That was the first time I ever got paid for a mixtape. They gave me like $1,000, and we did Streets Is Watching. And I just remember, like, slowly but surely, like, in literally 2-3 weeks, a month time, that was all you would hear, like, in every car coming outside the city. And a lot of those tapes were free tapes. So that was them giving them out and people literally popping them in and listening to it and continuing to ride to it. Air Forces took off.
Yeah.
The BMF movement was heavy in the city. So, that was an incredible cosign to have. The clubs was, like, a lot of the music was literally, that was another way that Gangsta Grillz got put on, was because with Jeezy's tape, the only place you were getting that music was on the tapes. Right. It didn't exist nowhere else. So people had to play them with my drops, with my voice on it. So we did Trap or Die, which, I will argue anybody to this day is the first ever mixtape that has a release date, that had a DVD. Like, the marketing plan that Coach and Jeezy and, myself somewhat had, I definitely give them more of the credit, was impeccable. I mean, like, because back then, like, tapes just came out when you went to the store. And
Yeah.
it was
there. Like we wasn't even really concerned with the date. It was just like, what's the newest thing that's out?
What's out? You know what I'm saying? With Trap or Die, we really treated it like an album. And that shit just changed everything, bro. I mean, from the release party in Atlanta, like, you know, that was the first time people knew what I looked like. Before that, they thought I was like dark skinned because of how deep my voice was. And you know, that was literally the tape that made everybody want to like fuck with me in a sense.
Bro,
I remember going city to city. Like I was on tour with Tip at the time. We was on the Urban Legend tour. And I grew up like just idolizing Clue and, you know, hearing his drop play out of cars and thinking like, damn, I can't wait to get that feeling. And with Trap or Die, that was when I got that feeling. Like I would be in Chicago or LA or Philly, and I would just hear Trap or Die come out of every single car that came by.
That tape was like infectious. This is a conversation that I usually have with people like from the South, because whenever, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm some aficionado when it comes to South music. I know a lot of stuff though, because Rap City didn't only play New York artists.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? UMTV Raps didn't only play that. Hits from the Street didn't only play New York artists. So when I tell people like their perspective of how New York looks at the South or up North looks at the South, period, is y'all don't mess with us. That comes from media. But I be telling people like, yo, when y'all sold records, they didn't only sell there.
Right.
They sold here. And Trap or Die was one of those things I felt like when it came out 05.
January 25th.
January 25th, 05. By the time I got onto that tape, I felt like in hip hop period, people was looking for something new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People was just looking for something new. Rockefeller, I was working at Rockefeller at that time. Well, Rockefeller was over technically at that time, but like they had this shift that had came from the South, and you spearheading that shit. We go from Trap or Die, and then we get the Dedication series. Oh my God, bro. Dedication. Wayne. I've been listening to Wayne since I I never became a sophomore because I stayed in the 9th grade. I'm a 9th grader, you know what I mean? Like that's as far as I got. But
you never graduated high school?
Yeah, I never graduated high school. I only got to the 9th grade, you know what I'm saying? But that was the first time I ever got left back was in high school. But I was bullshitting. You know what I'm saying? I was bullshitting. I put a lot on that on myself. But that's when I discovered Cash Money. And I had been listening to Wayne, Guerrilla Warfare, you know what I mean? Hot Boys album. I still got my Block is Hot CD. I was a fan of Wayne because we was the same age. We had the same name.
That's interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's crazy was I'm named.
Wasn't.
Huh?
I wasn't.
You wasn't? So look, I'm named that. My dad's name is Wayne. And my nickname when I was a kid was Lil Wayne until I got tall enough, and then people started calling me Wayno because that's my dad's nickname too.
Okay.
So I had like a thing for like Lil Wayne as an artist.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. And then, you know, we hear Juvenile leaves Cash Money, and then 500 Degrees comes out, and he basically did the same shit that Thug did to him with Bar to Six.
He did. I never thought about it till you just said it.
He did the same shit. He trolled.
He did.
He trolled, bro.
He did.
But then I think it was the space where people still wasn't taking him serious, and Dedication comes out. And when the Dedication comes out, that kind of changes the trajectory of how we look at Lil Wayne as a rapper.
Right.
Talk to me about that time.
So interestingly enough, I wasn't the biggest Wayne fan during the early Cash Money days. Like, cause I always thought, I don't know if I listened to the album. I don't know if I gave him enough that I listened to the album. So when it came to a lot of the Cash Money records, I knew him for the hooks. So I thought of him as the like wobbly wobbly, drop it like it's hot kid in a sense. And then when I started making Gangsta Grillz, and they were still compilations, and I was looking for music to put on there, is when I discovered the Squad Up mixtapes. So when I was listening to Squad Up tapes, that's when I started to like, I'd say become a fan, or you know, have the respect. That's when the respect that you know started building for who Wayne was, and so I guess this is is it 05 or is it 04? End of 04, 05. I'm on tour with Tip. we're on an Urban Legend tour. We're on the bus. You know, the tour bus has them little bunks on the side and everything. I was sleeping in one of my bunks, and I hear him pacing in the hall of the bus, and he's on the phone with Wayne. I don't remember how I realized he was on the phone with Wayne, but I asked him, like, yo, you talking to Wayne? I said, yo, let me holler at him. So me and Wayne get on the phone for the first time, and, you know, surprisingly, he knew who I was. He was familiar, and I was like, yo, we gotta get one in. And he was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So I remember coming off the tour, and I'm trying to picture the timeline, because I remember after I did Trap or Die, I remember asking myself, like, what the fuck are you gonna do next? Like, damn, is this the top of the iceberg? You know what I'm saying?
Real quick, I want you to keep it thought. Cannon said the same thing about him doing Go Crazy.
Right.
And he was like, yo, I was like, how the hell do I beat
after coming out the gate with
that? And then you have Trap or Die. That's, bro, I think it means the same to everybody, no matter where you from. Right. But carry on, bro.
Like, that's how I was thinking, like, yo, how the fuck am I gonna top this? Like, fuck. So Wayne and Tez wound up coming to Atlanta for something. I met them over at Stankonia. And that's when I just came up with the way I came up with Dedication, the title, the same way I came up with Gangsta Grillz. Just like, literally just like, fuck it, let's call it Dedication.
Just like that.
I had no idea what it would mean to, like, you know, it's so crazy to think about that name and like how potent it is to his pedgree.
Yeah.
And the concept of the tape with Katrina happened after Dedication 2. Like, you know, it was just fitting.
Bro, Dedication felt, even, it's a mixtape, but it felt personal. It felt like a gift. I'm gonna keep it 1,000, bro. Being a Wayne fan, it being called Dedication, the way he was rapping, he was kind of reintroducing himself as an artist.
He was.
And as a fan, it felt like, even though I had access to it and anybody else who had $10 had access to it, or if you had LimeWire, you know what I'm saying? Anybody who had access to it, it felt like he gave it to us. Like, it felt personal. Like,
for sure.
And the raps it's just rapping. But it felt like he gave us something, bro. Like,
it just, I think, like you said, it like reintroduced himself. Like, Dedication 1 came out during the Carter era. So the first one had already come out. So, you know, if you were a Wayne fan, you were already starting to get hip to what was happening. But I think Dedication was crucial because of the way the mixtape channels were at the time. And you know, especially like by that point, you know, this is after Trap or Die, and Gangsta Grillz has already became a brand. Like, New York was hip. So I was funneling a lot of tapes through the Canal Street system. So I think a lot of a lot of people in the East Coast got hip to Wayne off the Dedications just because of how the up top is consumer friendly with mixtapes. Right. And, you know, I just remember I remember listening to the music and putting it together and just thinking about how he was spitting on there. Like, it was just special. Yeah. Like, it was like water. Like, it was Hove-esque. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was M-level raps. Like, it wasn't what I had felt like this kid from Cash Money who made the wobbly wobbly drop it like it's hot. Like, it was some real bars on there. Like,
bro, I think it was like, for myself, I mean, I never even felt like he was gonna be that. I don't think, even if you liked Wayne, nobody
saw that.
That's why I always, like, I would compare him, you know, we always get the basketball analogies, and I always compare him to Kobe.
For sure.
Because it's like, you know, today, rap music is subjective. People forget everything Wayne has done today. It's 2025. People act like Wayne is
right.
Like, you know what I mean? I hate it.
Like, this new album is the only album he has.
Yeah, like the new album is the only, like, he's never done nothing, and they go back and go over his lyrics and say, well, that didn't mean nothing. Now, I was having this conversation with my son because I was telling him, I'm like, yo, listen, in a couple years, I was like, in 10 years from now, my son is 18. I'm like, when you're 28, the kid that's 10 right now is going to tell you how much better Wemby is than LeBron James. Because they're going to be like, crazy. Yo, it's going to be some shit that Wemby does. He's going to block somebody and then shoot from half court off of one hand, or off one leg with one arm. And they're going to be like, Bron ain't never do that. And I'm like, I just hate the fact that, like, this revisionist thing or going over stuff to say how good it wasn't, it just hurts our culture.
Because it happened 15, 20 years ago with Wayne to Hove.
Yeah, facts.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Like when niggas was like,
Like Jay was like nothing. Yeah, it's like
Wayne is the GOAT. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's a fact.
He's going through it too.
But all right, you talked about.
Oh, so real quick.
Go ahead.
Wait, so the dedication. I feel like it was something I wanted to say. We got dedication. We got the tape. Tape was out of here. All right, yeah. I told that story.
So, all right, but then we got to detour because all of these things is good. Like the story I'm getting about Drama's life is, you know, you discovered at a young age, you know what I mean, after watching Juice, kind of what it is you want to do. You start to get into that. Coincidentally, Bahamadia is your next door neighbor. You meet Questlove. You move to Atlanta. Things is going good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even, and I'm pretty sure there's some adversity, but we're going to talk about some real adversity. But things is going good. Now you have this name, you know what I mean? You catch this charge.
Mm-hmm.
And when you catch this charge, it's like, I remember reading it. And at the time I'm young, right? Like, on contrary to popular belief, we didn't give a damn about details of people's court cases the way they do today. It wasn't like this full level breakdown where everybody's breaking down every single line in an indictment or whatever.
That'd have been ill
if they would have been that, right? Which we gonna have another, because y'all need a doc or
for sure.
But anyway, you catch this charge and it seems like things come to a screeching halt because shit is like getting real in the fact of y'all are doing this music thing. Y'all are reaching your goals. Y'all are at a space where I'm not gonna say you never thought you would be, but now was it the feds that came after y'all?
Yeah, it was the feds.
The feds along with the RIAA, right? So within a system that we all aspire to sell music in to big us up, this system along with the feds come after you and Cannon and the whole operation of Gangsta Grillz affiliates. Take me through that.
So this is 2007. Gangsta Grillz, DJ Drama, the affiliates are hot as fish grease. I had just got my first major label record deal with Atlantic Records. We had a separate label deal for Affiliates Music Group with Asylum. Tape game is on fire. It's national. I think the last tape I put out was Jim Jones' 7 Day Theory. But you know, dedication to Jeezy tapes. Like I've done tapes with all, you name it, Busta Rhymes, like, you know, across the board now.
People seeing that's how they get hot now.
For sure, yeah. It became part, like damn near part of the marketing plan. Like you go on 106 in Park, you get double XL, you do a Gangsta Grillz, you know what I'm saying? And you know, we got raided by the RIAA and the feds, got hit with bootlegging and racketeering charges. Obviously my first emotion was fear. You know, I had never been locked up before. I wasn't familiar with what RICO meant, you know, so when I came home and checked my bank account and saw it was on zero, fucked me up, you know. And at that time, I was brand new to making money, so I used to just sit there and look at my money in the bank account. Like, I didn't even invest, or I probably had a retirement fund just because my accountant at the time told me to do it. But that was my first reaction, was fear. My second emotion was a lot of guilt, honestly, bro, because, you know, I told you my life story. Like, I'm really a kid from the culture, like a fan of hip hop. Like, I grew up, that's all I knew. I loved it, you know what I'm saying? And I grew up wanting to be a part of it. So for me to get in that position where I was, you know, I just felt like, I felt guilty that here's this culture that, you know, I grew up studying, loving, however, and now that I'm top of the food chain, it's gonna die on my shoulders. You know what I'm saying? Like, and especially the way after it happened, because, you know, a lot of shit was online then. Like, you know, a lot of the mixtape websites closed down. People started to pivot in different businesses. You know, it felt like, damn, if Drum can go to jail for this, nobody's safe.
Yeah.
You know, so I definitely went through that emotion. And then, you know, after that, I realized, like, you can't pay for this type of publicity. You know, my record label came, like, asking me how fast I could put the album out. You know, Billboard wanted to put me on the cover. I was getting more recognition, like when I was going to events. I remember being at Super Bowl, walking down the street, just, you know, a different type of people wanted to take pictures with me. Like, you know, before that it was hip hop heads. Like now it was women and children, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it was like, they put me in the record books faster than I was going. But, you know, and when you put it in a hip hop context or like into what it really means, like, you know, it was one of the days that changed the game because, like I said, like, you know, me being of who I was and me being targeted, it meant the mixtape game wasn't safe. And then it just made a lot of our culture, a lot of the media, a lot of people in the business really start to question, all right, what's safe, what's not. You know, mixtapes at that point had always been quote unquote for promotional use only.
Right.
Obviously people knew mixtape DJs got money, but we never spoke on it.
Right.
Now here's this whole like system that's coming, pointing the finger at me like I'm doing something wrong, when it's like there's people within these buildings that are literally, you know, actually handing me these records or asking me to do these projects, you know, so where's the line? So, you know, it complicated a lot of things, but I also look at it like, you know, I watched the Phoenix arise from that because, you know, if you put it in perspective, like mixtapes and mixtape culture got bigger after 2007.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like a whole new crop of young artists started putting mixtapes out, like sites like Dat Piff and Live Mixtapes were the precursors to the streaming era.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, you know, it was the day the game changed, but I don't want to put it at like it just changed for the worse.
Right, for the worse. I think that like what y'all went through, the foundation like that Clue was laying, of course 50 in them when they started doing their own mixtapes that was like albums, when now they're remixing songs and just giving you full on new projects, but they're for promotional use only. Who Kid, all of that. Y'all really made like corporate music America say they can't keep doing this shit without us getting a cut. Because then the mixtape, it's always this funny conversation about mixtapes, because for my and your era, what a mixtape was literally a cassette tape at one point in time.
Yep.
And blends on certain things. It was that, right? It's almost like the conversation about the freestyle.
Right.
Like people are like, oh, it's not a
definitions.
The definitions changed, but now the mixtape today in today's game has become basically an album that they
not your album.
The album that's not your album, but we spending less money than what we would spend on your album. But this album is how we gauge how good you are.
100%. It's really a way to take the pressure off of your debut album or your album between albums and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, and Cannon had expressed that when that happened, you know, y'all collectively had that brotherhood y'all had, now is kind of starting to dwindle a bit, right?
Yeah.
Like y'all not as close as y'all used to be. People are, you know, being selfish.
It all started when they told us to get separate lawyers. No, I'm just joking, but they definitely did. They was like, y'all need separate lawyers.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight makes sense.
It makes sense, right.
But yeah, no, we started to, you know, I will say that we had some people involved in our business that probably didn't have our best interests, that definitely didn't have our friendship, didn't mean as much to them as it meant to us, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, again, we were young and new to making money and like brand new to it all. Like this was our first run at it. So you make some of the mistakes that people make in the business, you know what I mean? And, you know, we did have like, me and Kenna had like, to be honest, originally, it wasn't really even me and Cannon that had a falling out, you know, and then Cannon made the decision to step away on his own. And, you know, I definitely like understood, but, you know, I had some loyalty to what the affiliates were at the time, you know, and, you know, I definitely probably felt the type of way. And, you know, because of like, just people in your ear and other shit, like we wound up starting to diss each other and like talk shit about each other on the tapes, and which is crazy to think about. I mean, we laugh about it now. Like,
yeah,
the tape that I did with Gucci the movie, like
the movie.
I was throwing so many shots at Cannon.
Well, that's one of my favorite Gucci. Like that's Gucci was out prior, but that's the one. Wait, the movie, not the Bird Print,
not the Bird Print.
The movie was the joint that had like the film reel on it. That's the joint that had what's this? A photo shoot. Yeah, photo shoot was on there.
Yeah, photo shoot was on.
Yeah, y'all was talking crazy on that joint to each other.
Crazy, bro.
Oh man,
we was talking crazy, but you know, what I mean, like, honestly, I mean, in hindsight, like, you know, you live and you learn and you go through that shit, and it's crazy to think that, you know, again, this is somebody like I went to college with, that we were friends. We was splitting $150, you know, and then we made it, and we started seeing some real money, and we went through what we went through. I mean, who knows what would have happened if the raid didn't happen? You know, we might have still fell out. Who knows?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, the way, the direction that things were going in. But ironically enough, you know, and I feel like a lot of people either chose sides or would talk shit to me about Cannon and talk shit to Cannon about me, except for Lake.
Yeah.
Like, literally, Lake was probably the only person that I remember that when he got on when I talked to him, and mind you, this is before me and Lake were working together. Like, we were friends from school. Like, he was in the business, he was doing his thing, I was doing mine. But when we would speak, he was literally the only person that would be like, man, y'all gotta cut that shit out. Like, that's your brother, yo. And, you know, so to think about where we all came to having a company now, like, Lake was the only one, and he would do the same to Cannon. Like, when he would talk to Cannon and Cannon would be on his shit, he'd be like, man, cut that shit out. Like, you and Drum need to figure that shit out.
Oh man. All right, so this because I want to start moving into like where you're at currently, but before I go there, there's one last Gangsta Grillz. It's not the last Gangsta Grillz I want to ask about, because I could talk to you for 10 hours if I had the time. But in my mind, the prequel.
Classic.
Oh man, bro. I'll say Pharrell made it cool. I mean, a lot of people say, you know, Kanye made it cool to be yourself, but Pharrell, to me, was that guy that could navigate everything. He could navigate the streets, he could navigate art, he could navigate fashion, he navigated sound, but he comes to you and does a Gangsta Grillz, bro. And you got him rapping over shit like
Liquid Swords
and
Trapper Die.
Yeah, bro, like just
Soundboy Burial.
Pharrell. We talking about Pharrell, you know what I mean? Like, he makes skincare things now with Human and all of that, you know what I'm saying? If you can, just give me a little bit of insight about that tape.
So I was able to be around Pharrell because of Tip. Pharrell had worked on, did he work on, well, he obviously worked on I'm Serious. And then did he do something on trap music? That's on trap music, right? Or is that Urban Legend? No, that's Urban Legend.
That's on Urban Legend.
So matter of fact, Pharrell was coming around when Tip was on House Arrest. It was Urban Legend. And that was when I first got introduced to him. And then, so we kind of got cool around that time. So he was already familiar with me. And mind you, Neptunes came out like 2000. By 03, 04, he was already a god. Like,
he was on.
It didn't take long, you know what I'm saying? Because that run was insane. Like, they owned 60% of the radio at the time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So when he called, I mean, so we did that tape 06. When he called, like, again, this is Dedication, Strapper Dies, Gangsta Grillz is the hottest brand in mixtapes. And he said he wanted to do a mixtape. Mind you, this is his one and only mixtape. He never did one before, never did one after. And, you know, surprisingly, at the time, I had gotten some pushback from insiders, because when I was like, I'm going to do a Pharrell Gangsta Grillz. And they was like, Pharrell Gangsta Grillz? Like, Pharrell's not really Gangsta Grillz material. Because, you know, you got to think.
You had like, a certain type of recipe.
It was, Gangsta Grillz was still known as like a southern trap
for the street
platform. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, right. It was for the streets. Like, I hadn't branched out and did R&B and Chris Brown and Jeremiah and Dead Prez and Pharrell, like Lil Brother. None of this had happened yet. So like, some people didn't see Pharrell and Gangsta Grillz really being the lick. but I was like, I looked at it like a movie director, like, I can make Boys in the Hood one day and then make, Love Jones the next. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that the Skateboard P is Love Jones, but the type of artist he was a different pace for what Gangsta Grillz was known for.
Right.
But it was like, I mean, the combination of what I brought to the table with that tape and what P represented within the culture, like the same way people talk about A Trap or Die or Dedication, a lot of people talk about that Pharrell, in my mind, prequel in that vein. Like, it brought a lot of worlds together because it was the streets with what Gangsta Grillz was, and then here's Pharrell, who's the hipster god at the time, but then he's rhyming on all these so hip hop-esque beats.
You know what's crazy about that? Because it kind of takes me back to like your skateboarding background. Because
1000%.
Like when people say the streets, right? Like the streets is like such this vague term. Because the people believe that the streets mean just criminal activity.
For sure.
But the streets is being what the kids call outside. We ain't call it outside.
Right.
But the skateboarders is in the streets
in
too,
the streets,
right? Like they're moving around and navigating 100%. In a world that people that's on the block is not navigating.
Yeah.
But a lot of them still live on that same block.
Right, for sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, for myself, who had a bit of duality that like, I was on the block, but I like nerd shit.
Right.
It was perfect for me, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, that shit was perfect for me. But, going back to you, Ken, and Lake, coming back together, you've had this relationship with Atlantic for so many years by being signed to them. Y'all start Generation Now. And, I mean, by this time, by the time you finally was able to build a star, you had already went through a lot of different artists that you were not only doing their tapes, but curating and, trying to sign shit. People probably wanted to sign to y'all, but now y'all got your own thing and nobody could tell y'all what to do. Generation Now starts. Got to tell me
What's funny enough too is
it just happened. Generation Now.
The way that name came about, Generation Now was a mixtape series first, before it was the name of the label.
Right.
And the reason why was because me and Cannon had got some drops from Kanye. This is before College Dropout. I got some drops from Joe Budden, Kanye, and maybe one other artist. And it didn't feel like a Gangsta Grillz at the time, because, mind you, I don't even know if I don't even think I had did the tip full tape yet. This is before full projects.
Right.
So the music that we were going to put on there it wasn't Gangsta Grillz. So it needed a new title for a tape. So I was like, how about Generation Now? I was just thinking Kanye and Joe Budden was the new niggas.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, we're going to call it Generation Now. So we named the tape Generation Now. Fast forward 10 years later, Lake is my manager. Lake started managing me in 2011, right around when I had left Atlantic as an artist, and I went over to E1 and I did Third Power, Quality Street Music album. Me and Lake started working together. We were building, I had started building Mean Street Studios, finishing up building Mean Street Studios, and then Cannon started to come back around to do our Shade 45 show. So we were spending a lot of time together. At the time, we were, like you said, I had already curated, hosted so many mixtapes, like been through a couple of deals and situations, and there were a few artists that we had tried to sign or get into some situations with, and they didn't work out. And we literally, the three of us told ourselves like, yo, we're not missing no more, bro. Like, we're not missing no more. I had came back after I had did 2 albums at E1. I came back to Atlantic as an A&R. Shout out to my brother Sam Crespo. Crespo put a good word in for me and was like, yo, Drum's putting out some really good records. You guys should consider him to become an A&R. When they hired me as an A&R, it took me a minute to find my footing. They were putting me with other artists that they had already had signed, and that just wasn't my style of what A&Ring was at the time. And, Atlantic partnered with me on Mean Streets. And around this time was when Cannon, literally, I remember him coming to the studio one day and be like, yo, I found this kid in Philly, Lil Uzi. I didn't hear a lick of music. I was like, man, go get them. You know, I just was like, it was just that feeling of not wanting to miss anymore.
Right.
You know, there had been like 3, 4, 5 artists that are names in the game that we potentially could have signed. Who knows in hindsight how it would have worked out.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you know, Cannon started courting Vert, and you know, he did a tape with him called The Real Uzi. That was the first project they did together. Vert came to Atlanta, and like he saw, you know, what our structure was. Like, you know, Lake was, even in the beginning, like, you know, Lake always was the most business savvy of the three of us. Cannon, you know, when it comes to the music, he's the wizard, and you know, I'm the spokesman as DJ Drama in a sense. So, and we had the studio, you know, first week Uzi comes to Atlanta, he meets Thug, you know, we take him on tour with Wiz Khalifa, like,
Remember that, yeah.
yeah, so we, you know, and you know, we literally, when we did the deal, and we did it as a production company first, that was when we needed a name for the company, and we was like, how about Generation Now? And it started like that.
Wow, man.
And you know, our first artist out the gate was Lil Uzi Vert.
Lil Uzi Vert. I mean, and one thing about Uzi, like, I remember the first time I heard about him as well. My homegirl Maddie was working with DJ Diamond Cuts, and Cuts was telling me, like, me and her was chilling.
You heard about him early.
Yeah. I had heard. I knew
before
about.
We signed him.
Yeah, before y'all signed him. So, you know, we always got them stories about it's 100 people you and myself could have signed, right?
Right.
And
because Diamond Cuts is, and just to clarify, Cannon was listening to Diamond Cuts on the radio, and she was playing.
She was playing them.
So that's how we heard about him first too.
So
Diamond Cuts.
What's crazy was at this time I'm breaking into my space and doing like management, right? Yep. Like, and it was right.
It was before he was working with East, or
it was right. It was right before I was working with East. I mean,
we did the tape in 2015.
2015. So I met East. Yeah, I met East in 2013. I started working with him in 2014. But yeah, it was right around that time. Yep. And her cousin, his cousin, Uzi's cousin, I forgot his name, but he had
Uzi's cousin.
Yeah, Diamond Cuts' husband.
Oh, you talking about
Maybe he don't want his name out there.
Nah, good kid. Damn, what's his name? Buzz.
Buzz, yes,
yeah, Buzzworthy.
So Buzz, he had hit me and he was like, yo, bro, I want you to work with me on my cousin, bro. And I'm like, who? He's like, Lil Uzi. And at the time, yeah, I did have East, because at the time I was like, when I got East, I was like, nah, I need to put my everything into this. And I was like, I really liked Uzi, but I was like, I couldn't see a world where I could work with East
of them
and work with Uzi.
I understand that.
I would have got fired either way.
I got
but I had to like put my eggs in one basket, and that basket was East.
Right.
But Uzi, bro.
Because I remember I got a picture from a time in New York where it's East, Uzi, and Post Malone.
Yeah, that was Post Malone's first show.
In New York.
We went to his show.
Yeah.
We went to Post Malone. Uzi opened up for him.
Yeah.
We went to, and then remember we went to Harlem after that.
Oh, we went
to El Porto. Yeah, we went to El Porto or whatever after that.
We got a picture outside.
Yeah, we got that picture, bro. That's a picture 10 years old.
Wow.
But yeah, man, I mean, y'all get Uzi and then he becomes this global phenom, superstar, generational talent. And of course, you know, what happens. Y'all still work together in some sort of capacity. It's bittersweet. But the toughest thing about doing this shit is doing it again.
For sure.
And then Jack. You know what I mean? And me and Cannon talked about it. I said when I seen, because remember how Instagram was working at that time. Whenever we had something new, we would all send it to our homies or whatever, or we just post it. And I remember you, Lake, Cannon, anybody in your team had posted Dark Knight. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, this white boy rapping like this, you know what I mean? And then even at that time, you know, me having such a close relationship with y'all, being around, you know, Jack, and seeing him grow, because he still was finding his foot in it, and then he becomes a superstar. You know what I mean? And it's a Generation Now thing. How does that feel after these years that we done talked about with all of this?
It's crazy because, like, I felt like, I don't know, I've kind of felt like the underdog a lot of my career somehow, some way. Like, even with all my success, you know, it was even after Uzi. And, you know, as history has told, like, you know, we had at some point we had fell out with Vert, and you know, there was some disagreements. So during the success of it, I was saying it's bittersweet because it was you know, tough to enjoy it because you know we have artists out here kind of putting dirt on our name, you know what I'm saying? And so it was, you know, to have Jack signed at the time and to be in business with Jack, like I really, you know, he was one of the one of the most important people to wave the Generation Now flag, you know, at a time when one of the biggest artists in the game is shitting on us, you know what I'm saying? Right. So, you know, I credit him a lot for that. And, you know, when we signed Uzi, I think a lot of people looked at us kind of like with a grin, because it was this kid from Philly with purple hair that didn't rap like Siegel or P. Crack or Meek Mill, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't your normal Philadelphia rap star, you know? And then we come in with this white kid from Kentucky that looks like Napoleon Dynamite early when he was 17. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I feel like we've always gone against the grain, but I saw the star in Jack early. I saw the wittiness in him, like just off, you know, even from when he was young, like he's just very quick on his toes. He's very comfortable in his own skin, you know, even with him finding his footing. And he put a lot of legwork in. Like that shit wasn't no overnight shit. Like you remember we signed Jack in 2017. We was popping, didn't hit till 2020 during COVID. Yeah. So, you know, there was definitely some years of development, some mixtapes, some tours. I remember when Jack first told us he was taking this comedian named Drewski on tour with him, and he was like, "Where are you taking it?" Okay, cool. And you know, look at them now. Yeah. But you know, it feels good to be able to like have the legacy that I've had to, you know, to say like I literally came up, you know, doing mixtapes with the Roots and Bahamadia, to making history with T.I., Lil Wayne and Jeezy, to, you know, signing Jack Harlow and Lil Uzi Vert. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I've run the gambit.
You run a gambit.
And winning a Grammy with Tyler, the Creator.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say, man. Is Call Me If You Get Lost the most important Gangsta Grillz?
It's definitely up there. I mean, at this point, it has to be top 3. I mean, it has to be Trap or Die, Dedication to It, Call Me If You Get Lost. Like, yeah, there's, you know, he what's it called? He hop skipped over his idol, which was the Pharrell Skateboard P, in my mind, a prequel. If that was close in the top 3, like I have to give Tyler that 3 spot. You know
I mean, I know, if not that we're making the list, right? But if there's a 5, I feel like, you know, the Dream Chasers series fits in that
for
space.
Sure. Dream
you know
Chasers 2 is in there.
It's in there.
Babs in there. There's no competition.
There's no competition.
Definitely a Gucci tape.
Yeah, my favorite Gucci joint is Burt Print.
Burt Print, yeah.
Yo, that joint is.
I was saying some shit on there.
Yeah, you was talking heavy on that joint.
I might put the movie over the Burt Print, but it's between those two. And then, you know, Chris Brown in My Zone. Yeah. Like, it's some sleepers, bro. Like, Jim, the 7 Day Theory.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Y'all tape, Hate Me Now was fire.
Hate Me Now was a joint. Yeah, we had fun making that joint too, man. Yeah. I was telling Ken, like, what I really loved about the space that you created with Mean Streets was, you know, even though we came there to work, it wasn't like business. And that it's a good and a bad thing. Of course, I'm gonna just tell y'all, we got the tape because of my relationship. But at the same time, you know, you allowed us a space. Yeah, we were allowed a space to come in there, and like I met G Herbo that week when we stayed out here. At that time, I never seen myself living out here. But I met G Herbo that week. I mean, we spent a lot of time with Uzi because Uzi was working on Love Is Rage the same time we was doing Hate Me Now. Yeah. It was just like Mean Streets was just this thing that meant so much.
Right.
You know what I mean? So much great music came out of that studio.
Yeah, I think that's like another proud accomplishment of mine that like that I don't speak about that often, but is the culture of Mean Streets. Like so much has come from Mean Streets, and like, you know, shout to Summer Walker, not the artist Summer Walker, but the person Summer Walker, who was my ex at the time, who definitely helped me build it. She had the vision along with myself, but you know, I remember her when I had a studio before that was literally like the projects, and her just always saying like, this doesn't represent you, or like, you know, what you bring to the culture. And I feel like that's what Mean Streets accomplished. Like, you know, just when it comes to that building, like interns that have become execs, like artists that have, you know, gotten signed from being in there, or who early on in their careers were in there, to just the environment that it created. Like the way we originally built the building, it was almost like built for camaraderie, because there's this open space where everybody's going to run into each other, a common space. So it's like you literally kind of got to make friends, and you hop the room to room and work together. And it just was like, you know, that them 2015s to literally I'd say 2015 to COVID, like, you know, that was a historical hip hop moment in time at Mean Street Studios in Atlanta. Like everything came through that building, everything. Yeah. If you was in Atlanta, you was coming through that building.
No, that's, man, a hell of a story, man. A hell of, like, I just think like just the timeline of what we talked about today.
And it's just not just to like give Tyler his flowers a little more, like to have done all that I did, and then for Tyler to have this genius idea to utilize me and my brand on his album, where he wanted to showcase his lyricism, his love for rap, you know what I'm saying? Like, and for it to, you know, ring off the way it did. And, you know, I think I was with you when I found, matter of fact.
Yeah, I broke the news that you won the Grammy.
The news that I won.
Yeah, we was at Dreamville.
And then being there at Dreamville to be performing with Wayne, Jeezy, and Tip, and sitting with you and you breaking the news to me, like it was to win a Grammy off that. Like it's so 360 for my career. And then, you know, to watch the resurgence of Gangsta Grillz, you know, from after the Tyler Call Me If You Get Lost is just, you know, it's incredible.
Yeah, man, that Tyler, there's a common thread, Drum, between the work that you do, albums, like when you have to put that Gangsta Grillz stamp on it, because what was it, Snowfall, when you did Jeezy Snowfall, right? I remember having conversations with people like, I don't know what this shit is, but it just feels good. Mm-hmm. And Call Me When You Get Lost, like for myself, bro, I remember the first time I saw Tyler, and I think, you know, his video Yonkers, right? I remember being
never forget it.
In Young Chris crib, a bunch of Philly nigga, a bunch of gangsters, and we watching this video, and they like, this nut ass nigga eating a roach. I'm like, yo, that nigga fire, right? And I'm telling people, and they didn't really get it.
Yeah.
And to find out how much of a, you know, a Neptune baby he was, and a student of the game. I think so many people don't give him credit for being a student of the game.
One of the illest students.
Bro, the first time I met him, he told me, he said, nigga, you a nerd for this shit. Nerd out, nigga. Like, stop being cool. And what he did, I felt like it was, what y'all did, yes, it was a Gangsta Grillz, but it was a moment for like mixtape hip hop culture.
For sure.
You know, takes me back to how important the Just Those Mixtape Awards was. DJ K Slay, you know what I mean? Like just those people who was telling people about this subgenre of the music and how important it was and what that shit meant. And for him to have won a Grammy with, you know, Igor, and saying like, yo, this is basically a consolation prize. I'm gonna show y'all niggas and do a rap album, which is a Gangsta Grillz, and win a Grammy, bro. And you being a part of that, I'm just like, yo, this is like the highest level of this rap shit. You know what I'm saying? So I was grateful to be on that stage with you when I remember they was telling me, they was like, get your phone. I'm like,
oh, for real?
Yeah, so we had to chat. You know, they do all that shit on Twitch.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see the chat and navigate the conversation while Rob and Gina talking too. And my producer, Jamie, she's like, look at your phone. And I look at my phone and I was like, oh shit, he won a Grammy, you know what I mean? So it was just
that was ill, you breaking the news.
Yeah, bro.
There was some tough competition that year too.
It was some tough competition.
Yeah, it was some
really
competition.
tough competition. But I mean, you know, with that being said, and I'll ask you this lastly, is Drama gonna go into that film mind that he once had? I feel like having this conversation with you, the conversation I had with Cannon, I would love to see a series on y'all. You know what I mean? That's you know, a short form or limited series that tells y'all story. The documentary, like we need this type of stuff preserved in hip hop so that the younger ones can learn about this shit.
No, I agree. I mean, we've definitely explored it. We've had numerous conversations. and it's something that I want to pick back up on and revisit, because I mean, there's the Gangsta Grillz story, there's the Generation Now story, there's the Mean Street story. It could be one documentary, it could be a series of 30-minute episodes, 45-minute episodes. We just gotta figure out how to tell it, and who the best people to partner with to tell it is. But yeah, I think that we'll get there sooner than later. It's been something we've talked about for some years now, so definitely something I want to revisit and figure out.
Yeah, man. With that being said, Drama, DJ Drama, thanks for coming home, my brother.
Absolutely. Thanks,
just come home with me. Wayno, DJ Drama. We out of here, y'all.